It's an extraordinary legal battle taking place in a St. Louis courtroom this week over the future of a man who has spent most of his life in prison. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner says Lamar Johnson was wrongfully convicted of murder back in 1995. Now, Johnson, who is now 49 years old, remains in prison because Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt opposes his release. 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty has been following this case. Erin, good morning to you.
Good morning. This is a very concerning case. Usually when a prosecutor believes he or she has put an innocent person in prison, well, that person is released. Not in Missouri. It has taken an act of the state legislature and a very determined St. Louis Circuit Attorney to get Lamar Johnson just his day in court. It is a hearing unlike any other. The attorneys fighting for Lamar Johnson's release are actually special prosecutors appointed by St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner. Do you believe he's innocent?
I believe there's overwhelming evidence that Mr. Lamar Johnson did not commit the crime.
An investigation conducted by Gardner's office found that evidence used against Johnson at his 1995 trial was false and misleading. At the end of this hearing, expected to last a week, prosecutors will ask this judge to vacate his conviction. You going to testify?
I will.
What do you most want that judge to hear?
That I didn't do this. That I love Marcus. He was a close friend of mine, and I had no reason to want to kill him.
25-year-old Marcus Boyd had been sitting with another man on a porch on October 30th, 1994, when two gunmen came out of an alley and shot and killed him. The man with Boyd, Greg Elking, was not hit, but he told police he couldn't see their faces. It was 9 at night, and the assailants were dressed in black with ski masks like this. Lamar Johnson was brought in for questioning.
I would expect that they would reach the conclusion that I didn't have anything to do with it.
Johnson, with a history of drug possession but no violence, didn't ask for a lawyer and agreed to a lineup viewed by Elking, the surviving eyewitness. Did he identify you the first lineup?
No.
The second lineup?
Nope.
But shortly afterwards, Johnson was arrested for Boyd's murder.
I didn't believe it. I was in shock.
Shocking, says Johnson, because the next year at his trial, the man who told police he couldn't see the faces of the shooters confidently identified Johnson as one of them. Is there any physical evidence that ties you to the crime?
Nope. No weapon, no clothing. At the trial, they didn't even present a motive.
8 years after Johnson's conviction, Elking recanted. In a 2003 affidavit, Elking admitted that he named Johnson at trial because he claimed detectives threatened that if I didn't cooperate and identify who they wanted, then I must have committed the murder. The circuit attorney's investigation also uncovered proof in its own files that Elking had been paid thousands of dollars by the state.
I had no idea about that. No idea.
That information, according to the circuit attorney's investigation, was hidden from both the defense and the jury. Yesterday, Greg Elking again testified, this time for Johnson, as did this man, James B.A. Howard. Howard and another man, Philip Campbell, now deceased, have admitted over and over again in letters and affidavits dating back to 1995 that they were the two men who killed Marcus Boyd. And Howard said it again yesterday under oath.
How did Marcus die?
Me and Philip Campbell killed him on his front porch.
Howard is a convicted felon, serving time for a different murder. Still, Lindsey Runnels, one of Lamar Johnson's defense attorneys, says his story makes sense.
He lived about 400 feet from this crime. The witness accounts and the neighbors all support and corroborate what he is saying.
But the Missouri Attorney General's office, fighting to keep Johnson in prison, says a recent test revealing a trace of gunshot residue on a jacket seized when Johnson was first arrested tends to prove that Johnson is guilty. But it's a bright red and black jacket, not all black as described by witnesses. The judge will soon decide Lamar Johnson's future. In a 2021 interview for Sunday Morning, he talked about all he has lost over the last 28 years.
Time. And there was a closeness between a father and his daughters. And I missed that. I missed being able to be a part of their life.
The Missouri Attorney General's office says Lamar Johnson received a fair trial, and the burden is now on him to prove that he didn't. He and his attorneys have to convince a judge by clear and convincing evidence that he's innocent, and that is a very high bar. This specific type of hearing has happened only one other time in Missouri, so no one can say with certainty whether this judge will announce Johnson's fate at the end of this week or take some time to issue a ruling. And of course, I'm going to stay on this.
I know you are, but just a little bit that you shared with us on this story, there seems to be a lot of evidence that shows that he wasn't there. Well, where was he the night? Was he even in the area at the time?
No, he was, well, in the area. He was 3 miles away.
That's what I mean.
There are witnesses who saw him.
Was he at the scene of the crime?
No, I mean, there's no evidence that he was. He was 3 miles away. He was with his girlfriend at the time who testified at a trial that he was only out of her sight for 5 minutes. But then you had a detective who testified, well, he could have gotten over there and back in that time. So there are real problems.
Why is the Attorney General fighting so hard? Normally, isn't a prosecutor closer to this type of case than the Attorney General?
Well, and in this case, the prosecutor did a year-long investigation, the circuit attorney. Well, in Missouri, the Attorney General's office fights all these kind of cases.
Just automatically.
Yes.
Right.
Because they believe that you have to preserve a conviction, the integrity of a conviction. And so that's why I've been here so many times on Missouri cases.
Because if you overturn it, that's them admitting that they were wrong, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't accuracy be a greater virtue than integrity on the past conviction?
Well, and in this case, it's the circuit attorney whose own office, she wasn't in charge then. She's saying her own office did this. So she did the investigation. I would think that would I think, have more weight than the Attorney General's office that didn't handle the trial.
So the man who said, I'm the one that did it, did he spend more time in jail? What was his sentence?
The man who testified yesterday never spent any time on another case he did.
Right.
But the man who is now deceased only got a 7-year sentence and only spent 5 years of that.
As you can see, we are invested. So please come back. Let us know how this goes.
Moriarty, thank you so much.